Guy in the fucking conveyor belt. What a fucking villain. Like, ugh. Hello and welcome to All Comics Considered, the comic book podcast with a heart of gold and 6 feet of distance between all of us for the foreseeable future. This week, we are going to do a quick Pullbox. We're going to talk about the new Warriors, and then we're going to ask, what should we talk about over the next couple of weeks? Because, my friends, we're not going anywhere, so don't worry. But let's move on and go straight into that Pullbox. Boo! I don't know why I did that. Like, Steve does good music for us. Doesn't need me doing like weird disco sounds.
Not anymore. That's our sound
boop,
now.
Boop, 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 boop. Yes, this is our sound. We can't afford Steve anymore. Anyway, I just noticed Tim's name. So, listeners, we record in Zencastr because it is easy and it syncs everything up for us. And I am currently recording with Nick and Viral Meme. Viral, why don't you talk about your Pullbox this week?
Speaking of viral memes, that's going too far ahead. I'll talk about that stuff later. There's 2 books that one I'm very surprised that I'm enjoying and one that I'm not surprised that I'm enjoying. The one that I'm surprised that I'm enjoying right now is the Punisher Kill Crew. I did not know I would like this, but I've been blazing through my Marvel Unlimited because there's not much else to do. And Jerry Duggan and Juan Ferreira are doing a bang-up job. And basically, after the invasion of the Frost Giants and all that stuff, good old Frank Castle is doing cleanup because there's still some leftover goblins and other nasties running around Earth. And he recruits Tooth Gnasher. That's one of Thor's flying goats. And he gets he has a beat-up old man that Tooth Gnasher is pulling around. He's just going around and shooting up giants and other nasties. It's really fun.
I think you just described one of the hallmarks of a Jerry Duggan book is that it's fun.
Yeah.
Like even when the stakes are high and things are like, it's a really deep book, like, I don't know, Dead Rabbit. It's fun. He always paints a fun picture. So
this comic book is basically the side of a van with a fantasy painting with a barbarian with a battle axe and an M15 on the other hand. That's what this book is.
Speaking of that very book, though, I would also recommend you check out Curse Words by Ryan Brown, who's the artist and writer and artist of the book God Hates Astronauts, and Charles Soule, which is about a wizard named Wizard who has magic powers and comes to New York, and it's pretty great. It's literally, they did a tour of the country in a panel van with a fantasy scene painted on the side. So make sure to check that out as well. It seems like that might be right up your alley.
Yeah, probably. The second book is by Jason Aaron, the writer, and Issa Ribic? I don't know. And it's King Thor. And it's the Thor's granddaughters of Thunder, Loki, and Thor. And it's just, the conflict between the 3 of them. It's the end of the world as we know it, and the universe as we know it. And it's always coming down to Loki and Thor fighting it out. Loki gets something called the Necro Sword, which makes him even more powerful than usual. So he can stand toe-to-toe with King Thor. And if you were enjoying the books earlier, when we had chime shifting with King Thor, it's definitely in the same vein, same meter and beat. And I enjoy that stuff. So I'm enjoying this book as well.
Yeah, it's so good. I don't even have words. It's one of the. It's one of those books that sticks to landing. It is the dot at the end of the exclamation point that is Jason Aaron's run. Good call, Tim. Good call.
Yeah. Also a very fun book.
Yeah. It's also beautiful.
Yeah.
Because,
The art has been killing it lately. There are a couple books I'm not so hot on with the art, but lately, basically all the other stuff I've been reading is spot on.
Yeah. No, I could not agree more. Nick, what about you? What are you reading?
So I just started reading, honestly, a thing I liked a lot more than I expected to. Next Wave by Warren Ellis.
I love that.
Oh God, it's such a good book, man. So this came out in 2006, and honestly, the best way I think I can sum it up is that Next Wave is to Marvel Comics what the Venture Brothers is to Johnny Quest. It's several existing characters from the comics, including Monica Rambeau, and a couple of new ones, including a guy called who is now called the Captain, but who was originally called I'm guessing Captain Fuck, but they don't actually they use skulls to obscure the word, and he no longer goes by that because Captain America asked him what his name was once, and then beat the shit out of him and left him in a dumpster. It's very funny. And that's its purpose, right? This is not a deep plot book. The plots are basically non-existent. A great deal of time is spent in the first issue talking about how Fin Fang Foom wears little purple pants. I don't know what to say about it, honestly, other than it's very funny, and it is, much like the Venture Brothers, a very good mockery and admiration of comics at the same time. They describe characters as, like this character has the power to blow things up and steal things. I don't know. You guys have read this?
I'm sorry. Is this your first time reading it through?
It is. I honestly, I didn't even know what it was. I was just looking for things to read, and Declan Shelby has there's a reading list for him on Marvel Unlimited right now. So I was like, hell yeah, I like that guy. And this was one of the items on the list.
That makes
it was either this
sense.
or Punisher Max, and Punisher Max is pretty grim for right now.
Yeah. Okay. I remember, I haven't read Next Wave all the way through, but I remember just flipping through it to see like what kind of book what kind of Marvel book Warren Ellis would write. And there's like in the middle of the graphic tray of the trade, there's just like a series of like, Next Wave Agents of Hate, and just like what does hate mean? Different, like breaking down the anagram in a variety of ways.
It's something against terrorists extreme or something like that.
But they keep changing the name because that's fucking genius, and I love it.
Yeah.
I really love how they do Machine Man in that book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I be honest, though, like, I don't want to slag characters that people might enjoy, but I hate Machine Man. I hate Machine Man so much.
He hates you too.
I know, because I'm a filthy organic.
He's basically Bender in the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what he is.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, like, one of the first things he says in the book is, I wish I had beer in my robot brain right now. So, if you know Bender is fueled by alcohol.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense to me.
It's drawn by Stuart Immonen, and I'm going to apologize. I'm almost certain to pronounce that name incorrect. But the art's great, honestly. For such kind of a silly book, it's like the art conveys the tone very, very well. It's a lot like Transmet in the over the top kind of like suddenly a man bursts through the door and kicks someone else in the groin kind of ridiculousness.
The only problem with this book, and there is one problem. It's great. It's funny as hell, but basically Marvel has disavowed it. They're like, this is not in canon.
They pulled it in.
None of this stuff is real.
They pulled it in.
When did they do that? Because they disavowed it so long.
Captain America and the Mighty Avengers, the Beyond Corporation, so here's the story. The Next Wave is a group of superheroes who are assembled by Hate, which is obviously a sort of a mockery of S.H.I.E.L.D. But it turns out that Hate was getting their funding from a terrorist corporation called the Beyond Corporation. So Next Wave stole a ship and went off to be their own superhero team. And they are sort of running around fighting the Beyond Corporation. They pulled it in by essentially saying that the Beyond Corporation were Beyonders. Yeah.
Of course. Because it sounds like Beyonders, so why not?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
Yeah, it is hilarious. And also, even though it's ridiculous, it still highlights Monica Rambeau. And that's nice. She doesn't get a lot of spotlight.
That's true. Yeah, I don't think she's in a book right now.
They also have some pretty funny smack talk about the Avengers.
Nice.
They also refer to her as being very old, which is funny to me.
Yeah, she's one of the characters that much like the main continuity characters, their age just doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
What have you been reading, Marty?
Oh, well, my friends, I started reading Venom, Donny Cates's Venom, when I was in Savannah, Georgia on our road trip, because Absolute Carnage was coming out and I wanted to see what this Donny Cates guy was doing with the character, because I totally forgot Donny Cates wrote some of my favorite favorite issues of Doctor Strange. In fact, Doctor Strange's ghost dog was created and then killed by Donny Cates. So Bats. Yeah, I think he killed Bats and then brought him back as a ghost dog. But the good thing about having a ghost dog is that you can rub their belly and they'll never go away. But there's ectoplasm, so I guess that's kind of gross. Anyway, so I have been reading a ton of Venom, and his take on the symbiote is pretty fun, a little dark. Donnie has created all black. Whereas Jason Aaron created All Black and the Necro Sword, Donny Cates created Null, who is the creature that existed in between our universes when the time was, in between Big Bangs, or the end of Galactus, or the end of Galactus's universe and the beginning of ours. It is a lot of fun how it plays with the origin of the symbiotes and ties it into Beowulf, the epic poem, specifically around the Grendel dragon. It's been a blast. It's beautifully drawn by Ryan Stegman, whose name I really shouldn't talk about since we've had Chip Zdarsky on the show. They have a bit of a beef. I do recommend listening to other podcasts other than our own. You should listen to the Zdarsky episode of Stegman and His Amazing Friends, because it's pretty great. But I also started reading Venom First Host, where it talks about the person that had the Venom symbiote before Peter Parker got it. Which is weird, I know, and I don't know how I feel about it, but Donny Cates brought him into his Venom run, and
it's got to be an alien, right?
It is a Kree, and he's dead now. But I wanted to put this out there that by next week I will have read either both of these books or one of them. I'm planning on reading the Kree Skull War in the Avengers run because of the upcoming Empire run. And I'm planning on reading Jason Aaron's first major comic book work, The Other Side, which is a retelling of the Vietnam War. Kind of like All Quiet on the Western Front, but with both sides. So I'm very excited that I get to read a lot more now that I'm not going anywhere.
Did they ever discuss how the symbiote got stuck in a weird machine in Galactus's ship?
He was in Battle World, right?
Battle World.
What it was that Peter Parker went to go create a new suit because the other hero was like, "Oh, there's this fabulous suit, the maker. Just go in this other room and I'll make a suit for you." And he went to the wrong machine, and a little black ball appears in his hand, and that's the symbiote.
Yeah, it was like a chair, right, or something that he sat down.
Yeah, he was sitting in a
Yeah.
chair. But was it ever discussed in any of these books how he got put in there?
I'm hoping that the end of the first Host miniseries will do that for me. It is written by Mike Costa and drawn by Mark Bagley. Bagley of Ultimate Spider-Man fame. So it's gorgeous. And, it's kind of...
They might have talked about that in the whole series where they went to the symbiote's planet.
Oh, yeah. That would be Bendis' Guardians run. And then Venom Space Knight. Yeah. Which has all been turned around, and Donny Cates explains why. So it's an interesting take on the whole thing, and it's a convoluted backstory for it all. So yeah, that's what I'm reading, and that's what I'm planning on reading for next time, because we ain't going nowhere. So after our Pullbox, we wanted to talk about the new Warriors. So Viral Meme, talk about some new Warriors.
All right, so Marvel's relaunching the New Warriors title, and the new Warriors that we know: Firestar, Night Thrasher, worst name ever, kid with the white mask is really big. Rage,
Yes.
is it Rage? Yeah.
I always thought that
Anyways.
Night Thrasher just sounded a lot like he had trouble sleeping.
Speaking of Night Thrasher and the worst name ever, developed by old guys, we have new characters, and notably between the characters, amongst the characters, there are two in particular that stuck in my craw. Their names, and they're twins, and they're people of color, and their names are Snowflake and Safe Space. Because in the rationale is they're young people taking back these words, these names that have been used, made fun of them, to mock them, and they're taking it back, right? Which is really kind of, I don't know, it's so half-ass to me. It just sounds. There's a meme going around that's been going around for years where there's what's that actor's name, Nick?
Oh, Steve Buscemi.
Yeah, Steve Buscemi with the baseball cap and the shorts and skateboard, and he says, "How do you do, fellow teens?" And it's just that. How do you do, fellow teens? That's what what these names remind me of. Just a clueless dude or a set of dudes that don't know what kids talk about or feel or care about. That's what
it feels like an old millennials take on Zoomers, and I ain't feeling it.
Mm-mm. Here I am. I'm Gen X. What do I care? But it just seems lazy and like bad design. I can't stand bad design. That's my thing.
B negative is, oh man, I don't know. It's a vampire. He's a vampire that a teenager that was infected by Morbius. So he became a vampire, but he's straight out of 1985. And his shtick is that he loves the culture of the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Oh man, come on, guys. If you're going to write a book about kids of today, write a book about kids of today.
Yeah, don't.
So their screen time, Snowflake, safe space, B negative, and Trailblazer.
The only one I like is Trailblazer.
Trailblazer looks cool. She has a cool design. Her power is that she has a magic backpack.
And she pulls things out of there that may or may not be useful in any given situation. Cool concept.
That's the
oh my
the
god! Screen Time's power is memes.
No, that's yeah.
Screen Time's power is that he's hooked up permanently to the internet, so he thinks he's omniscient.
But hold on. So, what was the name of the woman you guys were just talking about with the magic backpack?
Trailblazer.
And she's the Latina, right?
She's a
Person
person of color.
like
I'm not sure what her
because it looks
ethnicity is.
she. Well, I mean, so she's just basically Dora the Explorer.
That's almost exactly what she looks like, an older Dora
Alright,
the
well.
Explorer.
Okay, cool. I don't want to shit on something I haven't read, but I'm not going to read it. So
here's the thing. I actually admire what they're going for with this book because, man, superheroes are dated. Like, we love them, but we love them because we were reading them, in 1985 and whatever when we were kids. The world had moved so quickly now that, when we were growing up, that's like 4 lifetimes ago. So I admire trying to update the superhero naming scheme and the way that they're presented and their powers. Like, I think that's really cool. I think they missed the mark. But who knows, man? Maybe the book comes out and it's amazing.
There's a lot of people younger than me that I follow on Twitter about like their feelings on books and stuff. So maybe they'll like it. We'll see. Oh, excuse me.
But yeah, I mean, you're right, Nick. These old heroes that we're used to are really old, and we're relatively old. So what would be cool? What would be cool is if there were some young people, let's say 17 to 20, that came up with character concepts and worked with creators to hammer them out.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, teenagers live in a whole different world now.
Yeah.
Like, it is so completely different. Like, look, man, you want to know what one of those characters a teenager is going to generate today? A kid immune to being shot at school.
Yeah. Yep.
The world is different. It is kind of cool that the original New Warriors are coming back.
Yeah, it's a 5-issue limited series that's coming. It comes out in like June. I tend to not read the solicits all that carefully, but like that one stuck out to me because I knew we were going to be talking about it because Tim was not impressed.
On the other hand, maybe I'm just getting old because Children of the Atom also looks kind of shitty.
Oh,
to me.
I don't know why I'm down for Children of the Atom, but not for the New Warriors. Like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I think that's exactly what it is. Like, listening to Battle of the Atom, they interviewed Vita Ayala and Leah Williams, who are like helping them. Vita's writing Children of the Atom, and one, it's a great name for a Hoxpox title, and two, her talking about the characters was really got me interested. So maybe if like Ben Kebblesmith wrote about like how he was super interested in these characters, that would work. But it's also like, I don't know, Vita was an amazing presence at C2E2. I'll just leave it that way.
I will say that this book is coming out of a pretty interesting sort of larger storyline that's being told through several comics, which is that in the Marvel Universe, people are finally starting to say, hey, maybe we shouldn't let 15-year-olds fight terrorists with laser beams.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a big push against, people, non-adult people with powers being, running around and being vigilantes. And I think that's cool, man. I think that's a really interesting angle. It's that there's a lot of interesting stories that can be told about that. I mean, you've all heard me rant about Charles Xavier raising child soldiers.
What I find very fascinating about this outlawed event that's coming up is that the Civil War kind of moment is called Kamala's Law.
Yep.
And it's being mostly written by E-Viewing is one of the main pitchers of the book, and I know Saladin Ahmed is also backing it up. And I am a huge fan of Saladin. Like, I don't think he can do anything wrong. So
yeah. He's totally solid. Really good.
So I'm excited. Yeah. Well, all right. So last and certainly not least, before we go tonight, look, we're all going to be cooped up for a while. Some of us longer than others. Some of us in a more precarious situation than others. So I think we should take a moment and like do some digital mutual aid. If there is something that you guys would like us to do, or a book to read, or a way to share the show, hit us up. Like, drop us a line on Twitter, drop us a line through our email, talk to Tim on the consistently updated Facebook page, which he must do a great job of because Tim does everything very well. I also say this with the full confidence of knowing that I'm never going back to Facebook. So take that, Zuckerberg. Yeah. Do you guys have like, has the shutdown, the pandemic changed anything about like what you're reading or how you're reading books?
I am avoiding the hell out of stuff about diseases.
Long story short, no. I'm just reading what I'm reading, the way I read things. I guess I'm more willing to go out and buy things digitally.
Same. Although,
so I bought FF and X-Men digitally.
I am incredibly nervous about my local. Like, they're doing like curbside delivery, and tomorrow is payday, and it may be the last time I get new comics, paper comics, and it's kind of scary because I'm not going back to a store unless it's First Aid on Taylor. I'm just not. Which is a sad thing to end.
Interesting times.
Yeah. Fucking curse. All right. Well, we still put out a show. We're going to be putting out a show for a while, so hit us up on the socials. We are at All Comics Cast on Twitter. We are on Facebook at All Comics Considered. And if you like what you've heard and you feel like you've learned a little bit of something tonight, drop us a line, shoot us a note over at launch@allcomicsconsidered.com or over on our Patreon at patreon.com/allcomicsconsidered. Every dollar you give through Patreon supports the community that we're trying to grow. We will be redoing a couple of the benefit tiers. There will be Drunk Super Nintendo 64. We just have to coordinate with Sharon because her company worked on that game way back in the day.
If you liked what you heard, go ahead and give us a shout out on social media. Go ahead and rate and review us anywhere your podcasts happen. Your reviews really help us bubble up in the atmosphere, and people get to see us. And so we can continue cranking out this content that you are apparently listening to. Well, thanks for doing that. And tell a friend about us. This has been All Comics Considered. I'm producer Tim. You can find me on Twitter at ApeStyle, APESTYLE.
And you can find me on Twitter at Officer Gleason and nowhere else anymore. That's the only place I exist. Actually, I don't even exist on Twitter because it's a cesspool.
I'm legally Nick Fury.
And until next time, podcast listeners, the world sucks. Be nice to each other. You'll make the world a better place.